You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. I'm joined by my co-host, Brad Hunt, and today's podcast is with Beau, Baty. And some of you may have already heard this podcast because this is the last 20 minutes of the first episode we recorded with Beau.
Yep.
That first episode was an hour and a half. I think a lot of people didn't get to the last 20 minutes, but those that did reported back to us and said, hey, we want this split out. We want this on its standalone episode. Those last 15 or 20 minutes of that podcast were gold. And so we here we are, we're doing it. So some of you may have heard this already. For those that haven't, check it out. We talk about social media, how we don't really use it much anymore like we used to. We talk about time, the value of time, kind of our philosophy on life, what wealth means. Yep. We tell some personal stories. It resonated. So here it is. I hope you enjoy it. I hope if it does connect with you, share it with a friend or family member, somebody you know that you think might benefit from the discussion. I appreciate all the feedback that caused us to go back and republish this show.
Yeah.
And it's just a short, quick discussion, 20 minutes or less.
Yeah, a little less.
But it seemed to really connect. So check that out. If you want to support our show, check out thegrittystore.com. Get yourself a sweatshirt, hat, a nifty water bottle. Brad has one over here. You can get the Chartreuse screen. I don't know, baby blue.
I would say clear, but it has baby blue tint to it.
We love the
Charcoal.
Human Gear cap lids.
Yes, absolutely.
They make the bottle. I mean, they really do.
No,
so
absolutely.
They're at the Gritty Store too. So check that out. And don't forget about the giveaways we have going on. Save 20% at Mountain Ops right now when you use the code GRITTY. Be entered to win a big $5,000 package. Same at Go Hunt. Use the code over there. You save 10%. Gear Shop. And you're going to get entered to win a big prize package. And Live as Say. Download his e-scouting courses and use the code GRITTY over there. You're going to be entered to win a Harvest Right freezer and an alpaca raft. Yep. So 3 big giveaways going on. 3 ways to win. Every time you shop using the code GRITTY, you save, and it helps us continue to make shows like this. So we appreciate that. Thank you very much. Have a safe, happy holiday season, and stay gritty.
We don't really use social media very good. We should do better.
You do have an Instagram, right?
Yep, we do. We just don't.
What's it called?
It's Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas.
Trail Llamas. Same thing?
Same thing, yep.
Okay. Yeah, you probably won't see anything on it because it's totally inactive, a little bit like my Instagram.
We get like 10 posts a year. I wish we were better at it, but I don't know. We just focus on the llamas and the business and people, and we're just not good at it. I
mostly focus on just film on YouTube and long form, like with podcasts. Social media is not my thing. I've enjoyed it in the past. There are times in my life I feel like it's not what it used to be. You know, with the censorship and some of the manipulation that happens on social media. And, it's funny because I used to like scroll through and I'd see all the things I'm interested in. And I'd see friends and people that did stuff I'm interested in. Now I scroll through and I see things that I think the government wants me to be interested in. It's totally different things. And I'm not interested in those things. And so social media has, I'm out. I'm done. Yeah. So that's kind of how I see social media.
That's interesting. I see that too, and I just haven't had they just never appealed to me, and I think maybe it's because when social media came out, I was in Argentina. Yeah. And it took off, and I came home like, I don't understand, swiping what? Left and right. It's like, you met a girl on what thing? Yeah. Like, what is an app?
Hey, I'm way older than you, dude. When I was in Japan on a mission.
Oh, wow.
And I was there in 94 and 95. I mean, Al Gore hadn't even invented the internet yet. So I think funny. 96, a friend of mine, someone came into the field and said, oh, yeah, I sent my first email. I'm like, what's email? They're like, it's like this electronic message. I was writing on paper and putting it in an envelope with a stamp to send letters home from Japan. There was no internet, email, or anything like that. So
I feel like Beau and I are close to the same age, maybe. How old are you, Beau?
35.
35. So I just turned 34.
Okay.
So we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing how things change, you know. And I remember when I got my first cell phone, I'm like, wait a second. I was around when you could afford the first cell phones.
I know.
Nokias. I'm like, it makes me feel old, but also makes me realize, in 15 years, the world has changed dramatically.
So
and
much.
I can't keep up. And I'm like, you know what? I'll just let social media be where it's at.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to take my family and live this kind of 21st century grassroots country boy way. Because I'm comfortable in that realm.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's healthier for the human soul.
I think it's healthier. I dove in at one time and I'm like, wait a second. I know that's not real, and that's made to be more than it is.
Yeah.
And this guy is way out in left field and making everyone else feel inferior. I'm like, I'm not into it.
Yeah.
I decided my kids wouldn't have any access at all to anything electronic social. And they also got taken out of public school too. So I've really gone full back to old school. And my kids learn from books and they watch DVDs. They don't stream stuff. And it's funny, as they've gone back and consumed content, for entertainment purposes, everything they're kind of soaking up is like 80s and 90s type sitcoms. And
Friends.
Sometimes even older than that,
Yeah.
And they're really not, they're not consuming today's cultural type content. And so much of it is shallow and vapid and empty and stupid that my kids now, when they do see something that's more modern, they're just like, they're way into the old stuff.
Some type of agenda being pushed.
Yeah, it's
anymore,
like it's not what it used to be. And having done it that way, I see a tremendous difference in their happiness, their interests in life, and then they are now acutely aware of their friends and how their friends are influenced by the little phones that they carry around in their pockets.
Big time.
And they have certain friends that they really like, but they're like, she cannot go 30 seconds without looking at her phone. Mm-hmm. And I'd say most of their friends have that problem because you can't put that sort of device in a teenager's hands or a young person's hand and not expect them to just, like, as an adult, it's been a struggle. And I'm well beyond, my little brain firing at that speed and rate and curiosity and all of that. And so, I think I think social media is more negative than positive for humanity at this point. But I still post a few things. Well, I should say Brad still posts a few clips on
Brad.
there. And
I hate social media too.
I read some of the DMs, and Brad will point things out, and I'll read the comments and comment. But Brad organizes anything we put up there, and
it's not great, folks. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's good. I mean, I have so many photos I could share them till the end of time of like cool places we've been, and I never do, like, so much cool stuff.
Yeah,
and I just kind of got tired of it. Yeah.
One of my favorite musicians, we were in concert, and that's one thing I was like, I like music a lot, all kinds of music. You're like, wait, you like that? I'm like, oh yeah, And he's like, hey, can you all put your cell phones down just for this one song? And he's like, I feel like humanity gets so wrapped up in recording and trying to remember everything that they did and are doing that they forget to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I realized at one time, it's like, I'm checking my phone. I was doing a lot of social media. I'm checking my phone. I was like, you know what? My son's asking me this question. I don't remember what he asked me. And it's because my mind keeps thinking, I got to keep promoting. I got to keep working. I got to keep marketing. Got to keep up to date. And I'm like, we get so busy trying to remember life and the experiences that we forget to experience it. And I'm like, that's huge, right?
Yeah.
You have to just let it go. Keep the memory in our heart and just
being
experience
in the
life.
moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's been healthy for me as a dad and the business owner, I think.
I have no doubt there are people who leverage social media in a positive way. I think it takes
That's
skill.
absolutely right.
I think it takes skill. It's discipline. And some people, that's their medium. Like, they're really good at it. We do a lot of affiliate marketing. Like, I do commissions. If people buy stuff, I get paid. If they don't, I don't. And I like that independence it gives me. I can promote anything that I feel like. It gives me an opportunity to see, though, what medium people respond to. When I produce films and podcasts, people people learn about stuff and they like what we do. They might go shop. They might go buy something we recommend, helps us keep doing our show.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
When we post to social media, it's like it goes in a black hole. Nobody buys anything. Nobody
Really?
I think it's mostly smoke and mirrors. I think so much of humanity is spending all this time there because it seems like it's valuable, but I just don't think it's that critical, actually.
And I think, too,
That's a unique perspective.
on social media, people get put on this high pedestal as well. And like what you see somebody and what you envision them as, and then you actually do meet that person. A lot of times, maybe not all the time, but sometimes you're very disappointed in that person because you're like, you're not what I thought you were. In a way,
Yeah, for sure. I think that you learn something I heard the other day that's kind of been in my mind a lot lately was just because something is hard to get doesn't mean it's valuable to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Becoming the richest man in the world or owning this or having that, it could be the hot chick, the money, and the fancy car. Yeah, it's super hard to get. It's, but just because it's hard to get doesn't in itself make it valuable. You might get it all and go, I really don't care that much that I have this.
This didn't change my core. This just didn't change who I am.
Nope.
I don't feel like I thought I was going to feel. And I think it comes back to the experience thing. And I realized, I think when I was in college, I had this idea is that nothing is ever as it seems, no, good or bad. It's never as it seems. The more you live and realize. And I said to myself one day, I was like, if I was the last person on earth and there was no one to see my fancy truck, would I still put a lift on it?
Yeah.
Right.
Or would I
That's what I mean.
Would I still have these $500 wheels? If no one was in the whole world, and if the answer is yes, I would be jacked to have those wheels, then put them on.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then reevaluate where you're at in your heart and your mind, and then get back to focusing on things that really matter to you at your core.
Yeah.
Which for me, I cannot wait to go to Hawaii and spearfish with my wife in March.
Yeah.
It's like, what's going to happen in 2023 for the hunting season? I don't know, but me and my wife are going to have a time in Hawaii.
Right.
Right.
And I can't wait for my little boy to start wrestling. And those are the things that at my core I want and matter to me.
Yeah, and I think as the older you get, the bright, shiny things, as you say, they start to appeal to you less and less. I
think that's just wisdom.
It's just wisdom and everything. I think as life goes on and you learn lessons and different stuff like that, you begin to really know what's valuable, what's not valuable to you, and what makes a difference in your life.
I graduated from the Marriott School of Business, BYU. I got a great job, Big 5 accounting firm, got paid a bunch of money. I remember we had like a stipend, $50 a day.
For what?
For food.
No way.
And I'm like,
$50
I didn't even spend $7 at Taco Bell.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's $50 a day. I'm like, where do we go? And if you don't spend it, you don't get it. Right?
Oh, wow.
So it's like every day was just fancy this and fancy that. And then you had your hotel, which was super fancy. And then they'd fly you out to the job.
Wow.
Sunday night, you're there Monday through Friday. You go home Friday. You're home for the weekend. You do it again. And so you're sitting down in meetings with people like the CEO at Nike, and I'm talking to him about audits we're performing. And I'm in that world. And at first, right out of college, I was kind of, I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
Way into it. Like, wow, this is neat. It didn't take very long for me to realize how empty it all was. And all I wanted to do was cook an elk steak at home, throw a potato on the Traeger, like hang out with my wife and watch, a show or whatever, just simple stuff. Mm-hmm. I realized that stuff got old so fast.
Yeah.
And again, just because it's hard to attain didn't mean it was of value.
Of what you really wanted.
Of what I really wanted. And so I think a lot of people confuse that, something is difficult to get. They confuse that with value. It's not necessarily true because those things may not align with what you really care about in life.
I think it relates to jobs, to everything in life.
Yeah.
I mean,
I always say I'm rich in lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm rich in time. So I was kind of offline. I was telling you about some sponsor that was we had these conversations, and they're like, but we're going to pay you all this money if you say these things and do this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really care. I don't want your money.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it's all this money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really motivated by money. They're like, but all you have to do is this much work per week for like the next 2 months. And I'm like, that's time. And my response was, look, that's too much of my time because I'm rich in time. Mm-hmm. I've built my life to be rich in time. I get to go hunt for 6 weeks in a row. Yeah. And then come home for a month and then go hunt for another 6 weeks in a row. Like, I'm rich in time. I have time. I'm not really rich in money, and I'm okay with that. But that has allowed me to when I am approached and someone says, we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money, I don't look at it in terms of dollar bills. I look at it in terms of time being taken away. Because at the end of the day, when you look at life, time was the most important thing we had.
It is.
It wasn't the money. And so I think we all get it backwards. Instead of selling your time in a certain way for what it's worth and how you're going to spend your life, we trade that for vast amounts of money for comfort and wealth and status, which really doesn't actually give us the thing we want, which is generally more time. I remember Tim Ferriss wrote the book 4 Hour Work Week, and he's sitting there talking to some guy. He does this analogy, the story. He's in like Puerto Rico or something, I don't know, South America, and he's down there, this rich guy, and he's fishing with this guy, this local, and they spend all day on this boat, and they catch all these cool fish off the ocean and the Gulf, and then they flow back in, and they're at the house, and they're eating, like, and they're sipping Mai Tais on the beach, and, you know, and they're hanging out. And the guy goes, dude, you have such a sick setup here. You know, you're only like, you're a guide for like 2 people a month. And he's like, dude, if you got more money and you were able to get this boat, and then you got this boat and you hired these 3 guys and you did this thing, you could grow this thing into this big deal and you could make this much money and da-da-da. And the guy that was just the simple, you know, fisherman guy was like, for what? And he's like, well, so that you can fish all day on the beach, hang out, and have a simple life. He's like, well, I already have it. Like, you know, and I think we kind of fall prey to that. Like, if we were just a little more content with some simple things that are really of value. Mm-hmm. Here he is, this high-powered rich guy saying, dude, if you just spent your whole life building, then you could retire and do what he's already doing without all that money anyway. Like, it's possible without all of that to do so much that we take for granted. So anyway,
it's very good perspective. You know, at the end of the hunting season, I feel like I have, because we're done working mostly, you know, we're getting ready for next year, and you're done spending time in the backwoods. And I'm like, you know, I got to spend a lot of time as a dad, and I look at other people's lives, and not necessarily that I opinionize or judge them, but I just evaluate them, and I'm like, I'm a blessed man. Yeah. And I had a dream of raising my kids on a ranch and having a business, and we're doing it. And I'm like, man, just now embrace it, because you're living what you dreamt of, and it's actually very, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And,
anyway,
we were just talking about the same thing with our kids. I'm like, I'm gone for a month or 2, but then I'm annoyingly present in my daughter's lives, like all day, every day. Yeah. Like, when they wake up in the morning, I'm there all day long. I'm having lunch. I'm poking them. I'm hugging them. I'm talking to them. And then through the night and into the evening. And even though I am gone for like September and October almost the whole time, then I'm back and I'm really present the whole time. And I feel like my wife even says, you're home way more. You feel like you're way more in our lives than you were when you went 9 to 5. We saw you for 2 or 3 hours each evening, and then that was it. And so I do think it's important to structure that life and, you know, try to make it so you are as present as possible.
Yeah.
Time.
Yeah. This is good. Llamas to time. Llamas to time in life.
That's right.
Cool.
Quite tangent there.
Thank you for the perspective. Yeah, it's really good.
All right, folks. Check out Beau Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas. STHEALTHY.com.
Should have came up with a better name 12 years ago.
And, yeah. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Stay gritty.